Welcome to Marvelous Eats. I'm your host, Morgan Crossfield. And today on Marvelous Eats, we're going to be making a chocolate cake, but not just any chocolate cake. It's a chocolate cake with chocolate mousse and chocolate ganache. It's going to blow your mind. So let's step into the kitchen. Okay, so here I've got all my ingredients. Before we do any mixing, I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. So now we're going to go ahead and mix all my dry ingredients, which we've got flour, sugar, cocoa, salt, baking soda, and baking powder. So first I'm going to add my flour. Add my flour in there. And then my sugar, my cocoa powder, my salt, and baking powder, and my baking soda. So now I'm going to go ahead and whisk it vigorously. Whisk it really well. You want to blend all in together so you've got a nice dry pond. And then I've got it whisked. So now I'm going to add all my liquids, my water, my vegetable oil, and my 2 eggs. And I'm going to whisk it some more. You want to make sure you get all the edges so that it's a nice, smooth cake. You have to whisk it for about 5 minutes with a whisk. And then if you're going to do with a hand mixer for 3 to 4 minutes. And with a KitchenAid mixer, it'd be 2 minutes. And there we go. So I'm going to turn my oven on for 350. And it's going to bake for 350 for about 22 to 25 minutes. So we've got all this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in here, grab my vegetable oil, and then I'm just going to pour about a teaspoon in one. And you're going to shake it around. I've got nice clean hands so that I can use my fingers to spread it. After you get it nice and oiled up to the pan, which is never good. Okay. And so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pour until you can get that much in there. And then we're going to transport over here. Move that over, and we're going to pour in here too. And you don't want to fill the pans up all the way at all. You want to fill the pans up until you can see no more bottom. You can't see the bottom of it anymore, but you do not want to fill them up all the way. Because by filling them up all the way, oh my gosh, it tastes awesome. It tastes just like chocolate cake should. Okay. I'm going to help it along down there. We'll make them rise, and we'll have really big cupcakes that we don't need. So there are cupcakes. And my oven's ready. So we're going to put it all in the oven. And I'm going to go ahead and clean up. We'll be right back after this break. I love cake batter, but I'm not going to eat this whole thing. I'm going to take this on my airy dishes and put them into my sink. Okay. Not really, I'm gonna eat this, yes. Welcome to the science behind the masterpiece. I'm Morgan, your host. So now let's talk about emulsifiers. Here we have lecithin, an emulsifier found in egg yolks. You see the water-loving head, the water-fearing tail. The water-loving head takes the water and bonds it with the oil on the water-fearing tail, bonding the water and oil. So all thanks to our egg yolks, we've got delicious cake. Okay. Hello, and welcome back to the science behind the masterpiece with your host, me, Morgan Crossfield. So, here are some of the chemical reactions that occurred while baking this delicious cake. 1. The baking powder we used. It created CO2 gas bubbles that made this cake light and airy. 2. The eggs. Well, they bonded oil and the water. 3. That salt we used. It helped in the formation of gluten. And those are the chemical reactions. Hello, and welcome back to the science behind the masterpiece. I'm your host, Morgan. Alright, so let's get into this. Let's talk about the structure of this cake. It's all about the flour. The proteins in the flour give this cake its actual structure. So without flour, this cake will fall flat. Now, speaking of flour, let's talk about why it is really important. So you've got your flour here that has gluten. So here's your gluten. And your gluten helps with the structure of the eggs and the oil, which when they mix together, the emulsifiers bond the water and oil. So now, let's talk about that salt. The salt helps in the formation of gluten. So without salt, our gluten wouldn't form. And without gluten, we wouldn't have structure or our eggs and our oil. Welcome back to the science behind the masterpiece. I'm your host, Morgan Crossfield. And let's get into those eggs. So, not only do we know that the egg yolks have emulsifiers in them, which help bond the oil and the water, but the egg whites, those are good too. They have amino acids in them. They have the hydrophilic and the hydrophobic sides. And when you smash them together, you've got your amino acids. Now, for the hydrophobic sides that don't like water too much, when you whip that air into them, and then you kick it out, they stay light and fluffy, which makes a nice batter and delicious mousse. Welcome back to the science behind the masterpiece. I'm your host, Morgan. So, let's get into gases. CO2 gas. Our baking powder over here, alone, that creates CO2 gas. But then, on the other hand, got your baking soda. And this stuff, when it reacts with the acidic chocolate, then you've got CO2 gas. That's all for now, folks.